For Hype Plus, I'm Tatiana LaJoy. Black-owned businesses are unprofessional. Many people in the Black community have either said or thought this at one point or another. This statement stems from various experiences that ultimately lead to them spitefully banning Black-owned businesses from their shopping, date night outings, or self-care expenditures. In 2021, the growth in Black spending power reached $1.6 trillion, which doubled since the year before, yet our wealth has fallen by 14%. This means that 99% of our buying power is spent outside of our community. These statistics imply that Black people know how to make money, but we do not know how to keep it. The Black dollar stays in our community for 6 hours, while it stays in the Asian community for 28 days.
Well, it's actually a couple of things. For one, we could seem that we're rude and it's not all about good customer service.
That's a problem. Why am I spending my money with you and you're too sensitive to even take the criticism necessary needed?
Is that they're so expensive, which I can understand. Certain people or certain places, they kind of hit you over to have a price.
Hating. That's all I can think of is hating, just because of the fact that they see one person doing their thing, it's hard for them to congratulate them.
There has to be a reason why Black-owned are the only businesses that are blackballed by their own community. You don't see this sort of attitude in other ethnic communities. Could it be because of systemic oppression, personal irresponsibility, deep-rooted psychology, or is it all of the above? Here's why Black people don't support Black-owned businesses. A common frustration among many African Americans is our constant appropriation of our culture. We are so proud of our culture because of everything it represents: strength, vitality, perseverance, and flavor. There is no denying that Black is beautiful. But if we truly believe this, why do we not profit on our culture as much as other races do? One reason for this is because we lack trust within our community. According to supportblackowned.com, there are even Black business owners that choose to not support Black businesses. When asked why, they answer that Black-owned businesses are unprofessional and no others besides theirs should be supported. But where does this unprofessional stereotype come from? Let's start from the bottom and determine what it takes to start a business. It takes a lot of effort to start a business, and it begins with market research. Market research involves gathering data to learn about target audiences so that a business owner can determine factors such as the demand, market size, and market saturation. Knowing these things can help a business develop a strong foundation so they can have growth and longevity. After that work is done, a business plan needs to be made, which is based on all of the market research that has been done. This plan can either be traditional, which is usually dozens of pages long, or a lean startup, which is typically about a page long. Next is figuring out the best way to fund your business by first determining how much you will need and figuring out which is the best method to get that money, whether that be through bank loan, crowdfunding, or investors. Depending on what kind of business you have, the next steps vary and include choosing a business name, structure, and location, and registering your business. This is the bare minimum to start a successful business, yet many Black businesses do not invest the time to establish a strong foundation for their company. One of the biggest complaints is that Black businesses are hard to find. This is a clear indicator that most of these businesses do not take enough time to do market research or organize their finances to allow for advertising budget. Advertising is important for businesses because it drives growth by targeting the right audiences and attracting paying customers. Getting customers is important, but keeping them is crucial. We live in a time where there is an abundance of small businesses and it's very competitive. Creating customer loyalty is the key to continued profitability for any successful business, and the best way to create customer loyalty is to have great customer service. This might be the biggest culprit of unsuccessful Black-owned businesses. Many customers complain about unprofessionalism, with stores being closed during business hours, business owners or employees with bad attitudes, and unapologetic bad service. Most Black people want to support Black businesses, but don't want to deal with the headache. At the end of the day, bad business is bad business, no matter where it's coming from. YouTube user @NaturalLife wrote, "I desperately want to support Black businesses, but I can't. Case in point, I live in Metro Atlanta. There are Asian nail shops and Black-owned shops. I've gone to Asians mostly, but now I refuse to give them a dime of my money. I tried going to Black-owned, but they have no clue how to run a business. I go to an Asian shop. I'm in and out in an hour or less. Black-owned, I was in there 3.5 hours. Asians smile at me and ask, 'What color you like?' Black-owned roll their eyes and acted like I was bothering them. Very rude, gossiping with each other, cursing, etc. I just do my own nails now. I miss the Asian shop, but refuse. We do not understand how to run a business, many of us, always running out of supplies, etc. My money is valuable to me. Treat me with respect and do a timely good service, and I will support your Black-owned business. This is not to bash our people, but more so to take ownership of what is lacking and how it can be improved. Black company owners have a tendency to put minimal effort into their company and expect to be treated like businesses that do put the effort in. In this era where being woke is very prominent, many Black-owned businesses will rely on being Black-owned as the main reason why they should be supported. When they aren't supported, defense is the first reaction when it should be an opportunity for introspection and growth. But let's also talk about the Black-owned businesses that have done the work. They know their target audience, they spend money on advertisement, and they have a solid business plan. But some of these businesses suffer based on the bad stereotypes created by the less successful Black-owned businesses. There are two theories that may explain this. One is the crabs in a barrel mentality that our community unfortunately adheres to. The Black community simply has more haters than other communities, and that's why there are no Black communities like Chinatown, Little Italy, or Little Russia. The reason being is most Black people come from poverty-stricken backgrounds and tend to glorify hood attributes, being gangsta, hard, etc. If you are an individual that wants to rise above the stereotype, most Black people will tear you down or ridicule you. There's many cases of Black parents being jealous of their own children. It hurts people to see others succeed because it shines a light on their own insecurities. They'll say things like, "You think you're better than me," if you happen to be doing better than them because you worked for it. It's a slave mentality passed down through generations, epigenetics. Another theory is generational trauma. In his 1952 semi-autobiographical novel, Go Tell It on the Mountain, famous African-American author James Baldwin asked, "Could a curse come down so many ages? Did it live in time or in the moment?" The trauma of slavery has been carried on throughout generations of African Americans and is manifested through poor health and poverty. We are aware of the residual effects of slavery that we see in our community. A more recent example of generational trauma would be the riot of Tulsa's Greenwood district. In 1921, Tulsa, Oklahoma's Black Wall Street was one of the most successful African American communities in the United States. However, on May 31, 1921, an African American man named Dick Rowland was accused of attempting to rape a white woman named Sarah Page. The white community did not want to wait for the investigation to happen and instead took matters into their own hands by lighting 35 blocks on fire, injuring 800 people and killing 300. This tragedy resulted in 9,000 Black people becoming homeless and destroying a community with a remarkable school system, indoor plumbing, banks, hotels, and contemporary homes. The state of Oklahoma had only 2 airports, yet 6 Black families owned their own planes. The average income of African Americans in that community exceeded what minimum wage is today. Caucasians didn't realize that their segregation actually empowered us as a community. Since we were no longer able to shop at white establishments, the Black dollar circulated in our own community and Black businesses flourished. Josie Pickens records in an Ebony article that lower-class white people in neighboring areas were undoubtedly jealous of this affluent Black community and felt the need to put progressive, high-achieving African Americans in their place. The financial power afforded to the Black community could not save them from the racial hostility at the time. Whites resented the fact that Blacks no longer passively accepted second-class citizenship in what they perceived as their land. The district newspaper would call the Black community things like Little Africa and In-Town. They labeled them as bad ends who drank booze, took dope, and ran around with guns. They created a narrative that the Black community was predisposed to crime and was in need of social control. This narrative helped them justify their actions of deadly violence towards the Black community under a shield of reprimands. The newspaper even suggested that the KKK could help restore order in the community, which in fact, the agency behind their order was to suppress the power that they felt the Black community did not deserve. Portraying Blacks as criminals helped enforce a violent racist ideology. Following the riot, the mayor planned to redesign the community for industrial purposes. Essentially, it was a geographical problem because the government viewed that area as an ideal location for business expansion, so they brought down land prices and established white dominance in the area. Hannibal Johnson, author of The Black Wall Street, From Riot to Renaissance in Tulsa's historic Greenwood district, explains that neither the survivors nor their families ever received the reparations suggested by the Tulsa Race Riot Commission. In an interview on The Breakfast Club, founder and CEO of the Wealth Factory, Angel Smith, expresses how we have been robbed of our reparations. Blacks were defeated during this time to know that their beloved community was so fragile and their perceived power seemed fickle compared to that of the elite and lower class whites. Essentially, the Black community was deboned by the white community, and that trauma still lives today. Is this why Black businesses don't have a strong infrastructure today? Is there an inherent fear that any success we have can and will be taken away by envious people with more power? It wasn't just Tulsa. Race massacres also devastated communities in Georgia, Arkansas, Michigan, Mississippi, and Florida, just to name a few. As Martin Luther King put it, when Negroes assertively moved on to ascend the second rung of the ladder, a firm resistance from the white community developed. The Black dollar circulating within our own community was a threat back then, and systems were put in place and narratives were spread to prevent it from happening again. That oppression is still relevant today and lives in our subconscious as a community. It's shocking how many people are unaware of the traumatic past of African Americans. This trauma is intergenerational and once realized can help combat the toxic patterns that we see in our community today, such as the crabs in a barrel mentality. As Jay-Z once said, "Crabs in a barrel, but crabs don't belong in the barrel. And they ain't never tell us that. So in the barrel, we gonna act like we act. We can easily get out of the barrel if we stand on each other's back. Whoever gets on top, as long as they stay attached, they're gonna pull everybody out. I was doing just that." According to Angel Rich's research, it's going to take at least 250 years for us to catch up with our counterparts if we do not practice group economics. This is why it's so important to educate our people, especially our youth, on the importance of group economics to help close the wealth gap. Angel owns an app called Credit Rich to help people round up their spare change and intelligently optimize their credit score as fast as possible. There's also a directory called blackbusinessgreenbook.com where consumers can find Black-owned brands from home goods to clothing and art, photography, and food. Black Nation is another app that can be used as a resource to find Black-owned businesses wherever you are. These are just a few resources that can help keep our money within our community and make us stronger for generations to come. If we really want change, let's start by taking some of the actions mentioned throughout this video. Let us know in the comments below what you think the reason is that Black people don't support Black businesses, and also shout out some amazing Black-owned businesses in your area that you would like to support. Stay up to date with the latest news and comedy by subscribing here to our YouTube channel. Follow Comedy Hype across all social media and look out for original content on our new streaming service at comedyhype.com. For Hype Plus, I'm Tatiana LaJoy.